in France, the country was very rich, but the monarchy couldn't actually decide taxes without Parliament's consent. And so Parliament and the monarchy argued for a while and decided they couldn't come up to a solution. So they established in 1789 the States General, which is an assembly of three groups: the monarchy, the Parliament, and the people. The people declared themselves the National Assembly, which is an assembly that decides what the people wants based on representation. Eventually, the National Assembly doubles because they gain so much support, and the monarchy gets scared and kicks the National Assembly out because they have so many representatives. So then, in a tennis court next door, because they'd been kicked out of the building that the States General was meeting in, they declare the tennis court oath because it was a tennis building, and they say France must have a constitution and the people must agree with it.
In an attempt for King Louis XVI to try and regain his political righteousness, he was trying to assemble forces that would try to diminish the power of the National Assembly. However, when the people heard about this, they were greatly terrified. This caused them to try and overthrow the Bastille, in which case the Bastille fell and was now in power of the people. However, even with the fall of this Bastille, the people still had great fear, as it was known all throughout France. This was because the king was trying to assemble more royal forces in the rural areas of France as opposed to the cities. In reaction to this, the National Assembly decided to gather and made a Declaration of Rights of Man and Citizen. This is similar to our Bill of Rights, as it promised that all natural rights such as liberty, security, and resistance to oppression were guaranteed to all people.
At the end of 1789, King Louis XVI leaves to go to Paris because he doesn't have support where he's currently at. In 1790, there's the National Assembly, and the new government creates a new constitution. And there's the constitutional clergy, which means the Roman Catholic Church is part of the state now and is part of the government. In 1791, there's the surrounding country of Austria announces the Declaration of Pillnitz, which means that they will intervene in France if the old monarchy doesn't come back. The reason they did this was because Marie Antoinette, her brother, was the king of Austria, and so he wanted her back in power. In 1792, France, because of this, declares war on Austria. The declaration really didn't mean anything, but the people were still extremely scared of this because it was an opposition of power, and that's why they ended up declaring war. And as part of this, in the first week of September, they executed 1,200 people that were in jail because they opposed the current government. Right after this, the monarchy is abolished and the people have complete and total rule.
In the beginning of 1793, this year started off with the execution of King Louis XVI. Even though he was not a great ruler, this caused upheaval throughout the country of France. This upheaval caused the rise of a counter-revolution against the previous revolution, which was taking place against the royal family and the monarchy. This caused Marie Antoinette, or the Queen, to have to try and rule the country by herself with the help of the aides of the previous king, who's now deceased. This caused her to have to raise taxes, and she was also forced to ban minority groups such as women's rights groups and other clubs. Due to this action, she didn't live much longer than her husband and was killed in October of 1793 by the revolutionaries.
From 1794 to 1799, essentially the same thing keeps going on and on until in the very end, Napoleon throws a coup d'etat and overthrows the government and becomes the leader. In 1794, though, many more leaders are executed. The cult of the Supreme Being is proclaimed, which is essentially just more government that will eventually be overthrown. And there is also a new constitution in 1795. So France is going through this long time of turmoil, of riots, and all of this while they're at war with Austria. And so the war effort isn't really supported. Whatever group ends up coming to power has a lot of opposition, and they have a really big problem with actually getting people into the military, fighting, winning, and then keeping everything domestically and foreign at home. There was a levée en masse, and the major problem of the convention was to actually get people to agree with them and fight for them. And this levée en masse was pretty much a conscription of all men into the military force and of all their economic production to be for military purposes. So throughout this whole time, France is in turmoil, but then in 1799, Napoleon gains power and keeps control, ending the French Revolution.